So I couldn't fit everything in that I wanted to say about this subject in one vlog, so I'm doing two vlogs, so you get two for the price of one. Way! So, major big crash, back down to earth, back down to reality. How did I handle it? Get support, get the family to rally around me straight away, get myself sorted out, give myself a kick up the backside, or completely fall apart. Yep, fell apart. Lots of insecurities, lots of bad habits, mixing with the wrong people, drinking too much, self-medicating, taking away the physical pain, taking away the emotional pain of losing essentially a lifestyle that changed my whole outlook on my own life. I found that I'd given myself a status, I got a status as a dancer, and I was important, I mattered to the other people, and that seemed to overshadow what should have been, which was what was important to me. And I fell apart, and I was on a road to self-destruction for a very, very long time. A whole host of things happened during that period. In the space of a year, I'd suffered this horrendous life-changing accident that would change me physically in so many ways forever. I lost a job that wasn't just a job, it was a passion. I loved it, and I'd also lost a 5-year relationship as well. Gone, just like that. So as you can imagine, it was really, really tough. So a few years I was out in the wilderness, but gradually I started to come out of all of that and think to myself, do I really want to live my life like this for the rest of my life? I knew, because dance had had such a positive impact on me, and in previous life before that, singing was a major part of my life. Before I was a dancer, I fancied myself as a singer-songwriter, so I tried for a while to get that off the ground, but I'd always done drama, I'd always been singing. I was a singer practically from the minute I could speak. I was put on the stage at school very early, and in my local community church, which I was a part of, the teenage choir, until I was 16. So performing for me gave me a purpose, gave me an identity, a positive identity, as opposed to the negative identity of just being the person with a disability. The disability was a part of me, but it wasn't a massive, it wasn't all of me. But being on stage allowed me to really shine and get my personality across. So as you can imagine, losing all of that so suddenly and losing so much more was a major blow. And that was the one thing that kept coming back to me eventually when the fog started to clear a little bit. I love performing, I love the stage, I want to go back, I want to do something. There was something out there that was saying to me really deep down, that was part of me, you need to find a way to get back into performance. That's your vocation, that's your passion, that's what you're good at. You need to find a way, but how? So spring forward 2 or 3 years, and eventually I decided that I wanted to get more involved in the LGBT community in my local and regional area, as I'd been very much away from the whole geographical area for practically 5 years prior to that, because of my relationship, and because I was so busy back and forth with work, in and out of different cities and towns, a lot for work. I didn't have much of a relationship with the LGBT community on my doorstep. So I started to do some research, and lo and behold, I came across this wonderful organisation called Elfest, which is a lesbian festival. The artistic director and the headquarters is based in Shropshire, but the festival has now currently got its new home in Wales. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful festival, and I very quickly got very involved in all of that. I went initially as a punter and then very quickly volunteered and got involved as a volunteer, and I got very intrigued in the whole lesbian fiction kind of community, and could see that there was a big following there. And by going to Elfest and being involved in the Elfest community and the LGBT community as a whole, I suddenly realised that there was a major problem in that there was a very poor presence of disabled people within the community, as far as I could see. This is my own personal opinion here. Disabled people were not showing up, were not being represented. I knew we were out there, obviously, and I thought, well, where are we? Where do I go to find this community within the community? We were such a minority. It's crazy to think that we were a minority in an already minority group. It baffled me. So I thought, well, if nobody else is out there pushing for this and trying to address this, then maybe with my position as a volunteer within Elfest, maybe this is something that I can do. And I enjoyed writing at school. I was very good at English. In fact, that was my best subject. And I linked my interest with the lesbian fiction authors that were going to Elfest, and thought, well, maybe it's because nobody that's in a position like me, i.e. a disabled lesbian, is actually putting the work out and being a spokesperson for us. So I thought, well, if nobody else is doing it, I'll have a go. So I started to sit down and write, and very quickly I got really sucked into the whole writing process. And within a couple of months I had this manuscript of a novel, and put it on the shelf and thought, well, I've done it, I've got that out of my system, I've proved to myself that I'm a reasonably good writer. If nothing else ever comes of it, I can look back in generations to come and say, oh, that on the shelf over there gathering dust, I wrote that, it was mine. And it just so happened that coincidentally I bumped into an old friend who I hadn't seen for a number of years, who happened to say that she was running a publishing company. I told her about the book. She seemed very interested. I sent it along to her. She contacted me the very next day and she said, I'm going to publish this. Boom. I was back in the arts. Fantastic. And within what seemed like the blink of an eye, I was there at Elfest, and I was there on the lesbian author panel, reading from my first book. I'd made it. I was back on the stage, doing something I felt passionate about, showing up as myself, representing disabled people in a positive way. I was back. That was it. That was the turning point for me. From that moment, my whole life has changed. My confidence obviously has grown. I've now just released book 3, novel 3. I've got another 2 or 3 other small books out as well. My circle of friends has mushroomed, and as a direct result of writing the book, getting involved with Elfest, I happened to pass a copy over to a friend who was a journalist, and she knew of another disabled lesbian who might be interested. we started to communicate. She bought the book. 4 years later, we're engaged. It happened. It's all happened. So from that moment of being down there, but knowing what was my purpose, I knew I loved the arts, I loved performing, I loved talking about positive aspect of disability. I've always had that sort of positive mind frame, that kind of, I've been taught as a child to be independent and have a positive outlook on life despite my disability, and I could translate that in terms of supporting other disabled people and other disabled LGBT people. This was it. This was my calling. This was what I was meant to do. I was looking for it. I'd lost dance. Thought I'd lost everything. But I knew deep down in my core that performing and advocating for others was what I was good at and what I needed to do. I was back, and I haven't looked back. Things are moving forward. I'm representing organisations. I'm being asked for my advice about things, my experience. I'm being able to use all of my life experience to support others. I'm still writing. I'm constantly inspired to write things. I've got another 4 or 5 books that I've started that I'm waiting to get back into. And I'm back.